Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week we're talking about quite a few things actually, but we're going to talk about Matt Reeves' recent Arkham Asylum show that got canceled, and apparently the internet lost its mind over something that was actually cleared up a couple years ago, which is bad reporting on the trade side, but also bad outrage culture just in the woodwork, because people already knew this, but they're using the fact that the trades are dumb and are using it as another means to hate on the DCU. And we're also going to talk about the Acolyte. It's on its 7th out of 8 episodes, and I think at this point we can firmly talk about what we do and don't like. And spoilers, there's a lot we don't like. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Superman. We're going to talk about Creature Commandos, Deadpool, even Suicide Squad-Iseki. So sit with us, and here we begin. And here we are.
And here we are. I can't believe that the Acolyte has gotten so much hate for so long, and that it might all be justified and deserved.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we were like, no, this show doesn't deserve the hate it's getting. What is wrong with everyone? And then we're like, but actually.
I think they put the show in I think the show is... I think now looking at it, I think Star Wars has an editing problem. I think they had that problem with Obi-Wan as well. I think that there was something salvageable in there, and I think that what we got was the worst of the edits.
But
Taylor,
let's get right into this part, because I think this is what we want to talk about the most. The Acolyte. Yes, there was a huge push in the background. A lot of people who were very upset, and you could call them like whatever you want to call them, the internet culture of just toxicity and all that good jazz. They had been hating on this show, and a lot of people said it was not justified hate. And we were like, okay, I get it. Maybe it's just it's like the Solo thing all over again, where people are just outraging for the sake of outraging. But as it turns out, the show is just not that great. And a lot of people who were hoping for something great, I feel like are in a sense of denial about how good, quote unquote, they believe this show actually is. Because there's a lot of people who still will justify anything that the show does, saying, "Oh, it's not bad. This is a great show." Blah blah blah, and they will try to fight tooth and nail with every single one of the complainers of the show, saying that the show is redeeming itself and the show is great storytelling. And it doesn't contradict
the show is bad storytelling. This last episode, the one I just watched mere 24 hours ago, was the worst. In a Rashomon, you were supposed to see this event from other people's angles, where you see information you didn't know, or you see someone's true intentions in something. We learned nothing new. And the stuff that people dislike, like, how did that little girl light a castle on fire? Guess what? She just did it. She just did it. There was no big reveal. There was kind of, and the Wookiee fight also was garbage.
Was it not just like the slowest damn thing? Like, I was watching it, I'm like, what are we doing, guys?
I have not texted. I usually don't text Taylor during the week. Taylor and I are very good about respecting work-life balance, and I usually I can save it for air. This episode was like I think you said it to me. It's a comedy of errors, like just a bunch of misunderstandings that lead to this. And it's like, oh, okay, so like I can see what they're going for. Like, they're going for, like, listen, you judge other cultures. You look at what they're doing with their children, and you don't understand. That's not bad. That's just how they do it. But instead, the lady turns into a scary smoke monster, which he kills, and then she was like, oh, I was going to help you. This whole time I was on your side. I was going to let her. It's like, then explain or show the spooky ghost monster? What if in episode 3 we see from one angle the mom turns into a smoke monster, but from the front it's like a shining galaxy and it's like a beautiful thing, but behind it looks like the girls are terrified. What is the smoke power, Taylor? Is that like a thing now? How many witches equal one Jedi? And also, are the Jedi like 20 times more powerful than the many? Like, they set up that the many was supposed to be this amazing thing. Nah, Carrie-Anne Moss just snapped their whole neck with a fucking mind bullet.
Yeah, I was watching it and I'm just like, okay, guys, I have questions because there's some inconsistencies here. We got the episode where we thought everything, like you thought the fire was going to be this big twist. We saw all this stuff. We saw all the dead bodies, and we're all expecting that this big battle. And it was literally the entire coven was trying to force control the Wookiee. And then when Carrie-Anne Moss decided to push them out of their mind, they just died. And I was like, that was the twist?
Okay, so we're supposed to be sympathetic with the witches. In this episode, the moment the Jedi show up, the witches are fucking with them and are already kind of on the attack and like talking in their head. To me, that is an offensive move. They attacked first.
Yeah, I it's funny because like they were the whole setup for this show was that the creator was like, oh, we're gonna show the Sith from the Sith's perspective. We do all this stuff, and people are like, okay, we can try it. None of that has happened.
None of that has happened.
Like there is no Sith perspective in this situation. This is literally they were trying to paint the Jedi as the bad guys, and they didn't. In fact, I'm watching this and I'm like, the Jedi were fully justified in this.
Is this the equivalent of seeing the body cam footage from the police officer and being like, oh, that guy really was actually in fear for his life? This footage actually exonerates this man.
And that's kind of how I felt. Like I was watching this, I'm like, I get it. Like there was one of those, like, I get it now. Like Saul came in there because he felt that the kids were in danger, a legitimate fear. And yes, Saul was probably in the wrong because he was overstepping what he should have been doing. He was getting emotionally attached. And I get that.
It's crazy that no one talked about, they're talking about Kill Bill, not Kill Bill, I'm sorry. They were as Matrix meets Star Wars. It's Sophie's choice. Squid Game guy has to choose which person gets to go to the next level of Squid Games, and he chose Osha. Sorry, May, you fall off the glass bridge. You don't get to go to the Squid Games finale.
I was just kind of at a loss for how, like, this isn't at all what they're trying to set up. This didn't seem at all like whatever they promised us was not it. I mean,
that guy got his mind messed with, and then we saw him like not speaking anymore. So like, oh, maybe he's fortified his mental capacities. Nah, bitch gave him poison, and he just took it right there on the spot because he felt so guilty that he was taken over and not in control of his actions. Like
for 10 seconds.
Yeah,
like I'm trying to justify some of the things. Like like you said, they tried to tell us that okay, this guy had killed himself because he was guilty of what happened. And we were wrong, and I'm sorry, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, technically, you guys were in the defense, and nothing was wrong. Like, to me, it's almost like, I don't know, I think back to the Batgirl movie, right? When the movie was coming out, they were trying to make the villain as like, kind of just... The way they were justifying how the villain was bad was because he was a working class man who the system let his wife die. So he was killing people. And then when the test screenings came out, people were like, he's not wrong, guys. And
you can't make the bad guy of your movie like 4 Gerard Butler movies. Like, isn't Gerard Butler did like 4 movies where he's like, you kill my family, I'm going to snap your brain. I'm going to break your neck away. Like, that's like 5 of his movies.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, you guys messed up because you didn't make anything that the bad guys were doing sympathetic. In fact, you had them attack.
This whole show should have just been choreography and no speech.
Because the choreography is the best part of the show. Every time they fight, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Here we go. But every time they talk, I'm like, this isn't it, guys. This writing is terrible. This planning is terrible. The plot line, it's one of those things where like people were coming up with all these twists and turns, and these guesses, and every single one of them is better than what we've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I was willing to see what happened at this temple. I wanted to see them control that Wookiee, and that Wookiee chases them down hallways and lights everything on fire with his lightsaber and is uncontrollable. The fact that she was like, "Nope, you're fine now," and he's like, "Oh, I'm fine now." It was just so anticlimactic. I don't know what I understood that I learned other than he killed May. Like, he allowed May to die because he's a weak ass Jedi. He's a bad Jedi. Like, Star Wars, even the movies I dislike, I can see characteristics, I can see characters that I would want to see in something else, or like want to play with in my mind. I don't want to play with anybody from the show.
Yeah, the show is.
What's the toy that you're like, ooh, I'm angry, I'm gonna go take a bath now? Oh, maybe they play with Smilo Ren. Maybe you go to the bath with Smilo Ren because he takes his clothes off so you can take a bath.
That's a little weird, dude.
They had to show off his scars. Also, I thought he was going to be there.
And that was the other. So there were so many confusing things about this. We're like, oh, this kid is part of a convergence. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. There are two souls that have been split into. There one soul split into two bodies. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's talk more about that. But this is one of those things where they said that there are all these developments that they're waiting to develop into the next season, and I'm like, nobody wants another season.
Yo, I would have made Taylor, we saw her turn into a ghost. We saw them turn into mist because bad guys can turn into black mist now. What if Smilo Ren was a robot, and in one of the fights it like gets its arm cut off? They're like, "What? You're artificial?" And Smilo Ren's like, "You don't even know." And we turns out that lady is like a ghost in the machine, and she like her body died, but she can still control, like she's inside of something. That would have been a great, like, oh, I see how they're connected. I don't understand what the point of this backstory is.
This is the same thing when I'm talking about, like, well, some of the fan theories are better than the actual story development. And so I was getting mad because I talked about this weeks ago, that one of my theories was who was in the Smilo Ren outfit, because I thought it was too simple that it was the Asian guy from The Good Place. I thought it was too simple.
It's just the Asian guy, and he got really buff, but they put baggy clothes on him, so you didn't know how hot he looked.
Yeah. Oh, dip, right? That's what he said in The Good Place a lot. Dip. But no, I was getting, like, when she talks about, when the lead writer of the show talked about that she based the villain off of Darth Krea and all this stuff from Knights of the Old Republic, or Krea or Darth Krea, whatever that character's name was, the pretend Jedi who was actually a Sith. I just got mad when they made the reveal as this no-name peddler of, like, it makes no sense. Like, okay, if I'm Darth Vader and I'm going to train you, why would I like act like this idiot who's like, I'm gonna hook you up with some drugs and then be the bad guy the whole time? Like, it was almost too obvious that this was the guy. And I know they're gonna probably twist it up and be like, oh, by the way, it's actually the green chick with the laser whip, but they're going to just justify it again. This is not a Sith. This is just a fallen Jedi. The Sith are no more.
The fact that green head slave master, because she has a whip, the fact that she wasn't involved with that coven. Like, why didn't we see her show up and be like, we got to burn this whole place down. This is immoral to us Jedi. Like, I just don't understand these two parallel stories. I mean, I guess they're going to converge, but they didn't even explain what a convergence is.
They're going to converge in a second season that no one's going to tune in for.
You think it'll happen? You think they already paid for it?
The showrunner has been talking about how all these plans are for a second season. And like, I hate when shows like this do that, when they
100%.
When they promise all of this stuff and it's not good, and then they don't give you any answer. It's like, I don't know, when to me it reminds me of like Lost, right? When Lost first came out, I think we were in high school. We just finished up our senior year of high school, and it was like
it came out our senior year.
Right after our senior year. I remember it was like it came out
I watched
right near the end.
Right near the end. Because it was must-see TV. I had to go to people's houses to watch it.
And what I'm bringing up is that show came out, right? And it was good. It deserved all the mystery, and you knew from the first episode that there's going to be more than one season because there's going to be mysteries and shit. We knew from the first episode this show is not deserving of a second season.
Yeah.
And they're trying to tell us that it's going to get a second season. If you want your answers, you got to give us a second season. I'm like, guys, fuck off.
Yo, you should have put all your good ideas in one basket. The fact that this show could have been half the length, and we could have probably just seen this. We could have just seen episode 3 was a waste of time. We could have made episode 3 15 minutes longer and just seen both sides of the story and just got to this finale. Because now what is the finale? The girls get together. They do the power of 2. Who do they do it against? They beat the green head lady.
Oh no,
she's the bad guy. She's the big bad of the show.
And to me, it's like it's one of those things that you know it's going to be an 11th hour twist, and those are the worst ones because they're not earned. They're like,
oh, all the other shows have had people show up in the final episode. You think Yoda shows up? You think Yoda's in the last 5 minutes of this episode?
I think people would be pissed at this point because he's the only character that should be alive at this point. But yet we got Katamundi, who's apparently 100 years older than he was previously canon, and now he's contradicting himself because that character literally in the Star Wars canon, one of his Force abilities is to see the dark side. And if you're telling me that this guy who has this Force ability to perceive the dark side is standing next to the big bad for every scene he's in.
Taylor, I didn't know.
Guys,
I didn't
quit
know
your
that.
shit.
I knew that everyone was saying that they weren't following canon and that they brushed it off. Like, people are mad that you don't know his birthday. No, I didn't know that he literally is a specially tuned special Jedi that can literally see this like a fire coming off somebody and like just didn't work that day.
Yeah, he didn't develop it for another 100 years, but he was still pretty steadfast that there's no such thing as Sith yet.
I mean, I guess this is more of that gray Jedi then. She doesn't think of herself as Sith. She thinks of herself as Jedi. Does that matter?
100%, because gray Jedi aren't Sith, and they've never been perceived as Sith. So if you're going to try to convince me that what's considered the pinnacle of being a Jedi is what this bad chick is doing, then no, you're fucking with the canon even worse to me.
Well, how are they going to show what's his name with scars on his back? Because he is her rejected Padawan. How long was he with her? Why is there no record of him there?
Because they're bad writing. Like, there's so many things. They're like,
did you just train him in the forest, like where nobody was?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think we get any of these answers. And like that show sounds, I just feel like they chose the wrong characters. Like, if that guy is the thing you have the best story for, why not work backwards from that?
Because sometimes the easiest things are not what they do. They wanted to make it unintentionally complicated. They wanted to do this thing where they made the Jedi as perceived as the bad guys. And so far, I don't see them as the bad guys. Everything they've done is fully justified. And it's like, okay.
Soul is a bad Jedi and has not lived up to the Jedi code. And I would say that of the other members of this lie squad that we just saw. But that doesn't mean that every Jedi is bad.
Yeah. And I mean, I have so many questions. So he caved, right? He did the bad thing because he felt a connection in the Force to this young Padawan. Not too dissimilar to Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin.
It's crazy that they're just doing, again, just like ripped off that storyline.
Okay, it's just, I'm getting frustrated with this show, and I'm just like, I'm going to watch the finale, and I'm going to wait for them to tell us season 2 is coming, and I'm going to probably pirate the whole season 2 so they don't even get my ratings, so they don't make a season 3.
I mean, when does this start hurting Disney? I know that the numbers are bad, but at what point do people give up? And like, if this is
that is actually the funny thing about this is that Disney uses their numbers on Disney Plus to kind of gauge popularity. People are showing up, but another huge gauge for popularity is merchandise, right?
nothing is not one thing has sold from the show.
Right. So what they found is that out of all the shows, all right, like with Hasbro putting out their waves of figures, this show has not had any major pre-order sales. Like they put out the Smilo Ren helmet and it did not do the sales that they were expecting. Most of the time when they drop one of these new helmets, these black the Hasbro black label helmets, they sell out for a few weeks and they have to say, okay, now we got to increase our shipments. The initial wave of pre-orders is not even halfway sold out. And that's why they're like,
I like the helmet, but all the other Star Wars helmets feel like space helmets, and this feels like a medieval torture device, which it kind of is. Listen, it's a badass thing from like an anime. This is like an anime thing, which is fine, but that's difficult to like, Dad, I want the sensory deprivation helmet for my birthday.
Yeah. I want the helmet to cut me off from reality so that the Force can freely flow through me.
Dad, I'm going to be loud breathing in my room, but nothing bad's going on in there, okay? I'm just using my new helmet.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's just bad.
It is. And it makes me, I almost like, I can think of all these other stories they should have ripped off. They should have just ripped off Batman Begins and have this guy be at some weird order and they're like, yo, we hate Jedi. We're going to teach you all the techniques to how to kill a Jedi. And then while he's doing that, he learns he's a Jedi, right? He's like, oh, you can go and infiltrate him. Nope, we don't get any of that.
They just messed up across the board. I think that's kind of what the big thing that everyone has realized is that just nobody truly cares about this show. And the people who are caring about it are the ones who are mad about the show. They're mad because they care. Because to them, the Star Wars brand is sacred and it's being mistreated by people who have no idea about Star Wars.
I don't think Star Wars comes back from this.
I think it does, but I think it bounces back and none of this adventures crap ever happens again. I think just like what we had with Solo, when Solo came out and people were pissed that they were pissed about episode 7, so they boycotted Solo, and by boycotting Solo, they effectively killed all of the Star Wars side story movies.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is the same thing. This is going to make so that the only things that exist are set within the right canon that fans have accepted.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get adventurous anymore.
Yeah, we're basically just going to get whatever comes after the Mandalorian in literally that order, right? Like whatever the big battle of Mandalorian is, it happens, new adventure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think they messed up big time with this show.
Well, if we're talking about shows getting messed up, what happened to this Arkham Asylum show?
Yes. So initially, Matt Reeves was working on multiple spin-off shows to the Batman. We were aware that the first project that was coming out was The Penguin. And then the second show that was coming out was Gotham City PD. It was supposed to be a detective noir style show to help further flesh out Gordon and the other characters. As that show evolved, it was later revealed in 2022 that show was now going to be essentially an Arkham Asylum show. And people immediately were like, oh my God, it's going to be an Arkham show. And that was the announcement that came out that people assumed everything was going to be this Arkham project set within the Batman universe. And everyone was excited. Everyone was like, oh my God, Arkham show. And then we hear nothing. And then we find out that new fella from Warner Brothers was tabbed to write and showrun the show. And he was, again, right here in the glasses, the guy by the name of Antonio Campos. I forgot his name. Sorry. Antonio Campos was hired as the showrunner, the lead writer, and they were going to move forward with this Arkham show. But people apparently did not pay attention to when James Gunn had flat out said in later that year that the show that was the Gotham show was later repitched as an Arkham show, and the Arkham show was going to be set within the DCU. And it was meant to also do a lot of backstory telling for the brave and the bold. And we knew that this was going to be the big change. He said that when he first came on in December of 2022, that show was pitched as a DCU property, part of the new rebooted universe. Matt Reeves had pitched it that way. And then the show went for about a year and a half with nothing, and now we know the show is effectively dead. So when Variety comes out and says, the Arkham show is dead, the spin-off of the Batman series is dead, everyone said, this is Matt Reeves trying to kill the Batman universe. This is James Gunn trying to kill the Batman universe and take it all away from Matt Reeves. And we knew for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, that this show was already part of the DCU and had nothing to do with the Batman. So it was just Matt Reeves doing more producing work in his wonderful Batman-favored universe.
So James Gunn then is going to do an Arkham Asylum show, but it's going to be with a different showrunner and a different cast.
Possibly. So this show, they said that when Campos was let go and everything moved on, they said flat out that it's fully possible that this show will continue in a different capacity and get retooled later on. So they didn't say the show is dead forever. They just said that the show's current form is dead.
I feel like I want Matt Reeves to really focus on what he's doing. And if that puts more focus on this next Batman movie and sticking the landing on whatever this Penguin show is, I'm kind of fine with that.
Yeah. And speaking of the Penguin show, a lot of people are also surprisingly, not so surprisingly, just pretty par of the course, they're getting pissed that this show is been delayed again. But at the same time, the show was never announced as a firm release date, and they stood it. When the show was, when we were told the release date, it was told to us via a misreporting, right? So we understand that they said September 8th is when the show comes out. The outlet that said September 8th had already deleted that date from their announcement article. That date has already been taken out of the article. And then we now have a new date of September 19th, but again, HBO has not confirmed that this is actually a real date for the show. So people are getting the outrage should not be non-existent, right? Because
don't they bump it to October at this point?
I think they should, because initially people were worried that Disney and Marvel were dropping Agatha all along on the same day. And now they're like, it's not the same day because it's not the release date. And they're like, oh, they backed away from Marvel. Ooh, they're not confident in the Penguin.
Remind me
never released the release date.
Remind me to go back to Batman. Did you see that Agatha trailer?
I did. It was actually darker and creepier than I was expecting anything come out of the MCU.
It definitely was all of those things. I don't know. As I'm watching it, though, I kept asking myself, what does this have to do with superheroes? As this coming, they're going after her, they're talking about witch stuff. Love it. Why isn't this Hocus Pocus 3?
So there is a big rumor going around that the show is actually going to be, the big payoff of the show is going to be the resurrection of Wanda Maximoff. And that was the big payoff. The reason why the show is a must watch is because that's what they're doing.
Do they bring back Vision too?
Vision's already back.
That one, oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, he's already back.
But he doesn't remember anything.
No, he does. That's the thing. He doesn't. He's conflicted with his own existence because he doesn't feel like he is the real Vision, even though his memories are still there.
Yo, I totally fucking forgot about the end of WandaVision. Like, it's so in one ear and out the other, because most of that show, I all remember all the stuff where like they're sitting in a house and Speedy guy from the Fox movie shows up, so now he can show up in Deadpool or as Wolverine. But I totally forgot. Yeah, the Vision does that fight where he like takes the head and he like scrapes it up against the code or whatever, the magic.
Yeah, and then probably the biggest payoff of that thing was when probably the best part of that whole fight, and I always people are always like, why is that the best part? Is when Vision has the intellectual fight with himself and says, no, what about the ship of Theseus? And he's like, what? And then they like talk about philosophy and that his existence is not actually contrary to what he believed. Like he's trying to convince him that he is actually still the real Vision. Which is actually, I thought was just philosophically a really cool move that they did. It's very overshadowed though.
So does this resurrect Scarlet Witch so that she can then snap all the mutants away once the mutants show up?
Probably. Like they're trying to
let's
retcon their
just
own
make
retcon.
the fucking X-Men alive and just get rid of the whole shebang and just have her and Magneto snap away everybody.
Yeah, like there's so many things that they keep doing wrong. And I don't know, Marvel, you guys need to like sit down and actually plan your stories before you realize you have to retcon your own stories because you didn't do it right. Like,
well,
come on, guys.
I mean, aren't we talking about like the cancerous cells that are on, like, this is under the umbrella of Disney, and these two have really floundered pretty hard. And I know that they are lots of people working on this, and I know millions of dollars are being spent on it. I hate to say it, they might be wasting their money.
I think that's one of the biggest concerns that people are having is that, I don't know, I've said this before, and people always accuse me of being like racist or bigoted or whatever, but I feel like it's something that does need to be said still. When you make a show and you try to go against the grain so you can be more inclusive and more representative of demographics that haven't previously been a part of that medium, you don't guarantee anything but outrage from the people who actually love that property. Because if it's not organically part of it, it feels forced. Same thing that happened with Avengers Endgame when you had the A-Team sequence, when all the women stood together and said, "I've got this." And everyone knew that that was the most forced in pandering moment of the entire movie. They could have just had each of those characters naturally done what they were doing, but it felt forced. It felt unnecessary. And Marvel is now doing this again. And you're now seeing almost like a checklist. Like, oh, does this character have it's like the South Park. Take a woman and make her gay. Like they literally said now Agatha, her ex-girlfriend on the show, played by Aubrey Plaza, is the main antagonist. So not only is she make her lame and make her gay, like we're having a show about this, and her main sidekick for the show is a gay character again. So it's like they're adding all of these things for representation purposes, but it's only annoying people that they're forcing it all in when it should just be organically added.
Are the gays watching this show? Do the gays come out in their full force with their RuPaul? The RuPaul Drag Race audience is like, yes, queen, yes, this is what I've wanted. Do you think that they come and watch this Agatha show?
No,
I don't think so either.
Because that's the thing, is that a lot of the times when they do this, the outrage online comes from a small demographic that demands to be heard. And then when they get heard, they still don't even bother showing up for what they're demanding.
Right.
And that's been a ridiculous aspect of pretty much every time. Like, it just happens every damn time. Like, there's no way around it. It's just people are now realizing it's not going to work the way they think it is.
Now, I didn't know we get all of Agatha. I can watch it in one afternoon.
Yeah, apparently they are just dropping it. And they did that with Echo, and Echo was okay. Like, I liked Echo to the most part, but it was also like, why is this show a thing? So
yeah, that show felt like 2 episodes too long. They had that fun fight sequence on a train. Yeah, they did it. They did some stuff.
Yeah, there was some fun that they had. And that's about it. There was some fun to be had.
Okay. Switching to second gear. Back to Batman. So when do we get... Does this affect anything with Batman 2? Does it affect nothing? Okay, so that's still a go.
Because it was actually never part of the Batman universe, despite the outrage online. The project that was a part of the Batman universe was the GCPD. And that was later shelved back in 2022 when they realized they didn't have enough to make a real compelling show out of it. So they shelved it, changed it to a DCU property to help set up the new Batman universe, because they're going to introduce a seasoned Batman. So they needed to have a Batman with an entirely established rogues gallery that was already in the Arkham universe.
You think we get everybody in that show? You think we get Scarecrow, Clayface, Two-Face, Joker, Riddler, maybe Mad Hatter.
It would be fun if they did, right? I mean, if they just made a full-on, like, why not? Let's just do that. Give us that.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about the world of live action?
So, yeah, I mean, there actually is. There's quite a few things still to talk about because I want to. James Gunn and DC officially showed off the official logo for Superman. And just like everyone had expected, it looks exactly like this. Like, it was just this nice little, here it is, by the way, everyone, it's official now. And they released a high-res official version of the logo.
Yeah, they gave a bunch of people a new wallpaper for their computer. A ton of people just instantly made that their wallpaper.
Yeah, and with that, the DC website is actually showing off some shirts and hats with that new logo on it. So you can actually buy Superman merch right now.
Now, I wish, now that we've seen these, I wish that they would show us their Green Lantern logo and Mr. I would love them. I would like to see all of the little pictures of these people. We're not going to yet, but I would. I wish that was part of all of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get it eventually. There has been some new set photos today that have been dropping for Superman, and I've decided not to share them just because it shows Superman in a baseball stadium, Maxwell Lord sponsored baseball stadium, fighting a couple characters, and it pretty much is a big action set piece for the film. I've decided just not to share those ones because I think it's just, there's certain things that I'd rather just people just watch on film. And I think everything behind the scenes that I've seen so far of this scene is really cool and should just be seen in the theater.
You don't want people to know how the sausage gets made?
No, you don't need to, because we already know that the sausage is getting made, and we will see the sausage when it's done.
Okay.
So
I'm excited for that sausage. I keep asking for more sausage.
Let's just say that I saw the videos and the set photos, and I actually am pretty damn excited about how this fight went, because it's actually pretty cool. And it's a lot more practical than I thought it was going to be. So good for them.
Good for them.
Some first reactions have also dropped for Deadpool.
I don't want to know. Are they good? Are they bad?
They are so damn good.
Okay. Thank God.
So they have had a few reactions have come from the international premieres, and the international premieres are actually being pretty coy with how they're premiering the film. They're doing the premiere, but they're only showing 35 to 40 minutes of footage, and they're not showing these other countries the full movie until it globally releases on the same day at the same time. So they're actually doing their big press tour, and they're doing these big premieres, and they're showing an episode's worth of content. But the content that is being shown is filled with cameos, filled with spoilers, and people are loving it to pieces. IGN, one of the most notoriously fickle outlets of how they review things, they just gave the new Demon Slayer season a 3 out of 10 because they thought it was too damn slow. That's true. The season was great. It was all backstory. Like, shut up, people.
Every episode, our hero did a training fight. It was great. We've had, as Dragon Ball Z fans, Taylor and I would watch 50 episodes of that bullshit, okay? They did that in one season.
We saw Goku screaming for 4 episodes and then finally becoming a Super Saiyan 3.
He was on that tiny King Kai planet forever.
Yeah, so internet still is pissed at IGN for being IGN. So that's pretty funny to me. But with
they set up that's going to be a movie, right? Just them running around that demon tower. It's going to be
they announced that the Demon Slayer the final season is not a season. It's actually going to be 3 movies.
Hot dog, Taylor. The show is ending.
Yeah,
I had no idea. I thought we got more.
No, the manga's been done for a couple years. I actually have the entire show, the whole manga. And the fact that this final run is going to be in 3 movies is amazing, because this final run is absolutely insane.
I love that they're.
I just got to say, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but if there's a character that you like, expect them to die.
Oh.
Because this final run is the most brutal run. Like, good for them. Like, they went full Game of Thrones and like, you like them? They're dead. Like, they just went nuts. But it's so damn good. So I'm not even mad that they're making it 3 movies because that's the way it should be done.
Are they going to do the same thing with My Hero?
There's another. Apparently, it's another. They're doing another movie for more backstory, and then they're going into another season.
I haven't seen movie 3 yet. I might have to buy it.
I bought it. I saw it in theaters with my son. It was fun. It wasn't it wasn't necessary, but it was still fun.
I thought 2 was good.
Yeah, I mean, all the movies have been pretty good. I like the first one a lot, where he and like Bakugo are like. Was 2 the one where they were on the island, or is that 3 was the one with the
2's
kid?
on the island.
Yeah,
1 is where he follows All Might to meet his science friend, and we meet Whitney.
Yeah, and then now they're finally talking about in the show stuff that's happened in each of those movies, which is kind of cool.
Yep, the movies are canon.
Yeah, they really are. So that's always fun when they do that. When they're like, by the way, here's this thing I got from this chick. So,
listen, we've hard shifted into anime. Can we talk about the best property of Suicide Squad?
Yes. Since we're talking about this right now, Suicide Squad Iseki is on HBO. It is currently all in Japanese. There are 4 or 5 episodes into it, and I gotta say, this show is absolutely one of the best things Suicide Squad has done. It's a great show. It is fun. It is ridiculous.
Cultured nerd stamp of approval. Can I get somebody behind the scenes to make a big stamp so we can just like hit it on the screen and it goes cultured nerd approved? It's fun. The characters are wacky and they feel, even though we've seen these incarnations before, they feel unique to this world. They all feel fun. They're taking wild anime choices. They're making big choices with these characters.
Yeah, they are. The show, it is almost stereotypical anime in so many aspects, and it's for the best because this show, it's like you're watching this and you're like, the Suicide Squad was meant to be an anime. This is the best way they could have done it.
100% it's meant to be an anime.
And what's so damn funny about this is that a lot of people were already upset. They're like, why is the end credits have Amanda Waller breaking it down and dancing? Because it's the most anime thing that any show has ever done. If you don't understand why that is like that, go watch an anime because there's so many animes that do the most ridiculous end credit stuff. Like immediately comes to mind is Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
All the characters are just dancing. And it's like, why is this a thing?
Listen,
but they are.
There is a lifeblood of homages to Cowboy Bebop, Space Dandy, Chainsaw Man, that like the characters are, when they're in the story, they are in this world, but anything else they can kind of just play around with, and they're avatars for ideas, and it's super silly. And it reminds me a lot of what they did with the Peacemaker show.
And I mean, speaking of Peacemaker, this version of Peacemaker in this show is not John Cena Peacemaker, but he is just as weird and goofy as you would hope the character would be.
Just as weird, because he's just as goofy.
He's not like goofy, like John Cena goofy. This is a character who is just so damn naive that is just so funny because he's like, I'm doing this for peace. And like, but aren't you a criminal? And he's like, peace doesn't know the law. And they're like, oh, okay, dude.
There's a fight scene going on, and he's just there polishing his gun. Like he's just so self-absorbed. He's got a mask over his face because he doesn't want them to know his secret identity.
You can't know who I am. I was like, dude, you're arrested. He's like, you can't know who I am. And he's wearing like a burlap sack until he finds his helmet.
They're in a fantasy world, and he still doesn't want them to know who he is.
It's such a funny show. I'm all for it, and I'm loving everything that they're doing with the show.
I also love meta-human Clayface. I know that he's been that for, I don't know how long he's been defined as that. I feel like I haven't seen him being a cool Michael Jackson badass in a long time. And this is I like that version of him.
His design of Basil Carlo, I think it's Basil Carlo. I don't think they've established which Clayface it is in the show, but
he's a bad actor.
Basically they told him that he's a B movie actor who takes himself too seriously. And so as soon as he got his like Clayface powers, he made himself a prettier version of himself. And he kind of looks like Michael Jackson meets the bad guy from Demon Slayer.
Yeah, that's actually very accurate. That's very accurate.
And what's pretty funny is that, so this show is very much an anime. and they're going with very much anime tropes. And the first thing that they did was that once these characters crossed over from our world into this Isekai anime world, this floating island with goblins and monsters, they all inherited powers of the land. So Clayface can now manipulate any form of clay that's not just his body. So he's like the god of Earth now. He's like the kid from Captain Planet with his Earth ring. He's just pulling up rocks and stuff. Harley Quinn apparently is getting some super strength in some capacity. At least that's what it seems like she's been doing.
She's mollywopping people and getting like a pink aura around her, but we don't know what that is yet.
Yeah. So each of these characters are just getting slightly more powerful, and they've kind of already set up that the antagonist side of the villainous antagonist of the show is actually just other members of the Suicide Squad who were sent first, who realized they were getting stronger and just decided not to go home.
Yeah. I'm excited to see. I feel like we're going to get a couple more. We're at least going to get what, 4 more villains?
Well, we already know they've already announced, they like formally showed off some artwork for the show. They've said that there's Enchantress. Enchantress is one of them. Killer Croc is one of them. Ratcatcher is one of them, and somehow Katana is a villain in the show. I don't think the anime company knew Katana was not a bad guy, but they made her one.
Okay, so she's a bad guy now, or she works for the bad guys, but she does good guy stuff sometimes.
Yeah, so I think they just misunderstood that. No, she's like actually a member of the Bat family. She's not bad.
No, she's bad guy now.
Yeah. They also don't understand that her sword is her weapon, because in the anime world she has a new weapon, and it's not the soul sucking sword that she has in the every other medium.
Is she a magic person?
Apparently is now. But it is a funny show. It is definitely worth watching, and the dub is actually coming out on HBO very, very soon.
Cool.
So, like you said, CCN stamp of approval.
Is it simulcasting? Is it playing weekly?
It is. It sounds like every episode is airing simultaneously between America and Japan. So if you're watching the subtitled, you get to watch it instantly. If you want the dub, you got to wait like a month or so.
And then, how many episodes are we getting?
I don't know yet, but we know that we've already got 5 episodes, and if it's anything like how Japan normally treats it, it's either between 11 and 12 episodes is their standard season.
I bet it's going to be 12. I feel like we can get another villain or 2 in 5 more episodes, and then
I'm willing to bet that if they already showed up, I'm pretty sure Poison Ivy is one of these characters too, because it kind of felt like that from that first shadow reveal. So
yeah, listen, this world is a lie. That evil queen does not want a peace. She does not want peace, and now that peace is happening, her daughter, who's got eyes for Harley Quinn, are they sisters? Do you think that they're like sisters from other realities?
I think they're going to probably do this like reveal that Harley Quinn and this princess are like, this Isekai world is irrevocably connected to our world, and we have doppelgangers, and she is the equivalent, and blah blah blah.
Oh, that's what they're probably do. They might do a Prince and the Pauper deal where they put a Prince and a Pauper where they have to switch them. Maybe, and the evil queen is like, I'm going to kill my daughter. And she's like, Puddin taught me all about what to do with evil queens.
Yeah. They're probably going to do something like that, which is like, oh, okay. They're not the same person. But they might as well be.
Well, it's my stamp of approval. I want people to go watch it. I want to know what you think about it. Let me know if we're off our rockers or if you're enjoying it as well.
We're definitely enjoying it. It's a fun show. And then on to... we have first look at Creature Commandos from James Gunn and DC. This show, as a lot of people were assuming, was going to be set in the past. Thanks to the set photos of Superman, we understand that Rick Flag Sr., who's voiced also by Frank Grillo, is present day. So it's very possible that this show, as gothic as it looks, especially with that weird cast in the background, may actually be a present day setting.
This looks better than Hellboy.
The new Hellboy movie is definitely a lot of people have thoughts.
Yeah,
we'll see. But on that note, I think we've actually covered most things that we wanted to set out and talk about.
Hot dog,
which is pretty great. We spent a lot more time on Acolyte than we were expecting, but we're gonna kind of wrap it up with our standard answering the questions of the broadcast channel, because a lot of people We have the broadcast channel on Instagram so that people can interact and follow along. And before we record on every episode, I do post a what do you want us to talk about? And people talk about, they ask us what they want to talk. They say thoughts on the new episode of Acolyte. Talked about it. What are your thoughts on John Cena retiring? Probably good, because John Cena has actually proven to be a pretty decent actor. So I'd rather see him in this stuff than go back to the WWE.
He can't put that much. He put a lot of miles on that body. He can do Hollywood stuff now.
Your hopes for a better future for Star Wars?
Maybe
give it to Dave Filoni and stop being adventurous with things that don't follow the fandom.
Sit down and write a 3-movie arc where the characters feel
have a plan.
Have a plan.
Have a plan. Thoughts on if we need a new Pacific Rim movie and would Guillermo del Toro come back? I would love a new Pacific Rim movie only if Guillermo del Toro comes back, because number 2 wasn't great. The animated show on Netflix was pretty cool, a lot of cool ideas. But if you want to make another movie, del Toro has to be involved. Otherwise, I don't want it.
If Pacific Rim's going to come back, you should introduce it into King Kong and Godzilla, that crazy movie, and you have one of the people show up and go, hey, we built a suit. We only built one, though, and it's a secret. No one's allowed to know about it, and it's Pacific Rim.
No, they had that. It was called Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, okay.
I watched the new Godzilla versus Kong on HBO.
It's calling me. I see it every time I turn it on. No, Taylor, wasn't it?
It was so weird.
Yeah. The last movie was weird.
So I liked Godzilla -1 because Godzilla was a force of nature. This one they tried to give personalities to each of the kaiju, and like somehow King Kong is way smarter than, he's like a person who just can't talk. And I'm like, guys, he's a giant monkey. Like,
okay.
Like, so there were so many things about this where I'm like, you guys have jumped the shark 3 movies ago. You're just continually like jumping it harder.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The action was fun. It was a lot of fun. But that's why you watch a Godzilla movie, because like unless you have Godzilla -1 where the human story is well done, you're going to be disappointed on one side or the other. And the human side of this story was so dumb.
Yeah.
It was too much. And now finally, the end of the episode Q&A. Is Matt Reeves still going to be working in the DCU? Depends. We talked about with this show being canned, he is officially going back to just working on the Batman movies. And I think part of the reason why they let this thing just die was that they didn't like where it was going, and Matt Reeves is spreading himself a little thin. We do know that he's showing up at Comic-Con in the next week or two to present Batman Cape Crusader and possibly bring some Penguin stuff in. So definitely sounds like he should be at home writing, but here we go. What are your thoughts on the new Time Bandit show from Apple TV?
Looks fabulous. Looks super funny. Lisa Kudrow looks great. It looks funny. I liked what they did. I liked the new kid. I was tickled pink by it.
I have a love-hate relationship with Taika Waititi, so we'll see how the show goes.
Listen, I'm on the upswing with him right now. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, well, I was on a major downswing with Thor: Love and Thunder. So
his soccer movie was great. Next Goal Wins was fabulous.
What Golden Age JSA heroes do you hope to see in the DCU? I would like to see Jay Garrick, the Flash, and Alan Scott, Green Lantern. I would love to see those two. I would love to see Wildcat as a major trainer of heroes. From Mr. Terrific to Black Canary to even a Batman, like having a background fighting with Wildcat at some point.
I know we just had him and it ended in a fire. I would really like to have Captain Marvel Shazam there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go into his backstory, just have him there. And I'd love for a magic Green Lantern. One of the
Alan Scott. Whose weakness was wood. So
no.
Yeah. So apparently he can stop a sword, but if you come at him with a bow, and you're screwed.
Sure.
In the age of spoilers and set picks, what's the best kept reveal? So
Grogu.
Yeah.
I mean,
nobody, even the merchandise company didn't know about the character. So as soon as it came out, everyone was like, "Oh shit!" That was one of the best kept reveals of all time.
I'm trying to think what else. I mean, it's pretty few and far between at this point. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the Deadpool stuff like that has as a person that's on the internet a lot, I haven't been, I'm not looking for it, but that hasn't been bombarded me yet.
Yeah. No, so with Deadpool and Wolverine, we know that there is a handful of cameos that have not even been revealed yet. And if they've shown off stuff in the trailers, they're meant to distract us from what's really going to be dropping. And my thoughts immediately go to Channing Tatum as Gambit. If he's indeed in the movie, which I've heard from dozens of people now, I think he will probably be one of the biggest reveals that people are not expecting. So when he comes out, talks with his Southern accent and has his red eyes and throws a couple cards, people might lose their shit, especially if he's in the pink costume.
So does that mean that they killed him in X-Men 97 to make way for Channing Tatum to...
No, it just means... No, we already know that he's coming back in X-Men 97 season 2 because Apocalypse has resurrected him as his new death.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God Gambit's coming back.
He's going to come back as Death and then be turned back and then just be back on the team as formerly Death, but now he's alive again. I actually thought that was probably the best way to bring back the character would be not to do like this time travel nonsense, but to bring him back as a villain and then just redeem him.
Love it.
Good for them. Next question. The Boys and Marvel updates. We've had a lot of great stuff from DC, but what's going on with them? The Boys.
I haven't watched it yet. We'll talk about it next week. I haven't
watched it yet. It's a bit of a roller coaster on this season. It's not bad. It's actually still part of the course for the whole season, but it feels like it's a very slow burn. With the Gen V show being all about the plague, it seems like if we've only got a couple episodes left of this season, they've been wasting a lot of time if that show is going to be as significant as they says it was.
Okay.
And Marvel, sounds like everyone on the internet was wrong today that the Captain America trailer didn't drop like everyone said it was going to, even though the movie's not coming out for a long time. So I'd expect it to be closer to Comic-Con. I don't expect it anytime right now.
That's all Comic-Con stuff.
Yeah. Thoughts on the Boys season? Michael's caught up. He's not caught up.
We're not caught up. We'll talk about it next week.
It's July. Is there a shot Spider-Verse or Spider-Man 4 next year? No. And lastly, what would be your perfect on-screen bat suit? What do you want to see Batman to be sporting in The Brave and the Bold?
It's gotta, I hate to say it, it's gotta look a little functional. I think that the suits that you can see, that kind of looks like that, I think it's gotta be like that. Which I think is why the blue and the gray works for me. I can see that looking like Kevlar or something, right? Like a badass person. I think it's just got to look functional, and then you can go to town with the cape. Again, that cape should be rip-roaring in the wind. It should be its own character. But I think, for me, I just want well-designed. I mean, I guess everyone wants well-designed. I want the whole family to look similar. And if it means Robin is a little bit more like Batman, that's fine. I
would very much like them to make a Robin suit where, like it is in the more modern comics, where black cape with a yellow underbelly, and the suit's primarily red with some green accents, like something that's like, because I think a lot of people don't realize that even in nighttime, right? Red is a color in the color spectrum that eyes don't register in the dark. So you can be wearing like dark ass red and people won't see it unless it's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're wearing white or green or any of these other brighter colors, people are going to see you from a mile away. So to answer the question, what I want to see is probably one of these. I'm going to pull these up because these have always been my top suits. Batman Arkham Origins, where it has this kind of leathery flexibility look, but it does have the armor plating and it's still the black and the gray. I would very much like the belt to be yellow, but I would like Batman's suit to be very functional. Almost like how it kind of was in the Dark Knight trilogy, where you could kind of see that it was a functional suit, but I don't like the black on black. One of my greatest things I liked about the Ben Affleck suit was the fact that it was black and gray. So let's get that again. If you want to do a black undersuit with gray plates, that's fine. Or if you want to go more to what I'm actually liking, something like the Telltale Batman games. More so the one, the less armored one is my favorite design, where the fabricy suit is over the armor instead of the armor over the fabric. But I would very much like one of those to where it looks kind of practical, very much like how the Superman suit looks, where it doesn't look like a rubber wetsuit, where it looks like it's actually fabric and wearable. I would very much like something like that. But I also, big thing I want is the lenses. I think having Batman with the white lenses, that does add a bit to the fear factor for villains. Yeah, you can't emote as much, but the fact, why does Batman need to emote? He just needs to look angry and he needs to scare the crap out of people.
I would also be fine if they're like, hey, it's just like it's like a nano, it's like a special thing, and it like looks like cloth, but it's not. I would be fine if we get like a Batman that looks like he's from the 40s, but like nothing cuts him. I think that would be fine as well.
To a capacity, yeah. I mean, I very much like to see some kind of a hybrid where, like, if the flexible parts are more the fabric parts and the armored plating is like very much like the Arkham universe, where you have like obvious flexible pieces with obvious armor pieces. Like if you do like a hybrid where it looks like that, but as long as you keep that black and gray, I'm happy with that. And like I said, I do want the yellow belt. I would very much like the yellow symbol back on. Like the point in the comics that he has that yellow symbol is to attract the gunfire toward his armor, not toward his face. Mm-hmm. So he literally says, I'm giving them a target where I put most of my armor on. That makes more sense to me than having everything black except for his belt, so everyone's shooting at his dick. Like that makes it makes more sense to have the symbol be with the yellow oval. But that's just me. But on that note, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for tuning in and throwing in your questions on the broadcast channel. If you want to support us, you want to keep the lights going, patreon.com/theculturednerd. You can hit us up there. You can join in, support the channel, support our sub-channels and all of our other shows. And if you are sitting at home, go ahead, scan that QR code, like, comment, and subscribe. That does a lot for the channel. It does a lot for us being able to keep doing this. And if you do want to join that broadcast channel, scan that QR code, go to the Instagram, and just join up on the main page. As soon as you get to the main profile page, it's actually right there underneath the friend count. It actually will tell you, do you want to join the channel? And it will show you everything that you need. So go ahead, join us, harass us, do what you want to do. We are planning on doing some more stuff for some of our other shows in the very near future. We are looking at bringing back The Cultured Gamer with a new host and possibly one of us being the co-host for an interim period while they get set up. But we are definitely here to keep growing and keep doing things. TCN may not have a presence at Comic-Con unless Michael decides to go, but we do know that one of our affiliate shows, This, That Type of Talk, they will be there. So definitely go to Comic-Con, look them up, and there's a full chance that Kahinde may just FaceTime me while you're bugging him, because that's what he said he was going to do. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye.